So you've got this up on your screen. Why did I make you take this out? Because there's a bunch of problems on the test where if you know how to use these, they're going to be easy. But it's been a while, and so I don't know if you remember how to do them or not. The biggest thing you got to know is arithmetic versus geometric, because there's only two kinds. The arithmetic kind that are between the two red bars, or the geometric kind that are between the two blue bars, like that. Okay, so you got to know the difference between arithmetic and geometric, and I hope you do. If you're multiplying by something each time, then you are doing a geometric kind. Okay, so if you're adding something each time, you're doing an arithmetic kind. So if I had this where it's like 5 and then I add 3 is 8 and then I add 3 more is 11, dot, dot, dot. That one I'm adding, so therefore it's arithmetic. And then the only two kinds of things I could ask you is, what is S sub 5? That means the sum of the first 5. Or I could ask you, what is U sub 5, which is the fifth term. I wish this wasn't a U. I wish it was something else, but that's the letter they chose. This S kind of makes sense because it's sum of the first 5. All right, and could you actually just find the first 5 and add them up? You could, but there's a formula for that, and you should use it because we're probably not going to ask you for the sum of the first 5. On the test, seriously, we're going to probably say, what is the sum of like 12, which is the first 12 of them, which is going to be much bigger, and therefore you'll want to use the formula. So let me just show you this one. I can tell it's arithmetic, so it's one of these two. This S thing means I'm supposed to use that formula because it has an S in it. And this is N. Do you see how it says little n right there? That's the N. And all I need to know now are what U1 is. That's the first term. N, I already told you that one's 12 in this case. 12 again. And then what the heck is D? That's the difference. It's the common difference each time. In this case, the difference is I'm adding 3 each time. So D is 3. So right now, I would like you to copy down this formula. N over 2. You can just copy it with me if you want. 2U1 plus parenthesis N minus 1 parenthesis D. Now you may recall that sometimes we'd move that D to the front, but it doesn't matter if you put parentheses around it. You really should have a parenthesis around each of these little variables. And one more thing. This could totally goon you on the test. You need to do this first. So do you get that if you put parentheses around that, that would make it go first? All right. So it's not on the formula sheet. Look, there's no parenthesis around this N over 2. But you have to know that that has to be done first. If you just type this in from left to right, it will do it wrong. It won't work. So try to remember that the N over 2 has implied parentheses around it, which would mean that it has to be first. All right, take a second and try this one. We're finding the sum of the 12 terms. You're going to use a calculator for this. Now this is the part where I'm going to ask you to use just the iPad's calculator, because we don't need a fancy calculator here. Just a kind that can add, subtract, use parentheses. There will be time when you can just relax. This is not that time. Focus. Try. Do your best here. So what's the N? The N is 12. It's that little number I circled. N is 12. There's only 2 other things to put in. U1, I hope you know which one U1 is. N is still 12. And D. I told you that that is. It's on the board. So if N is 12, I'm putting a little 12 right above my N's. U1 is the first term, and that's 5. And the common difference there is 3. I told you in the blue circle, do that first, and that comes out to 6. 2 times 5 here, that's 10. I can do that in my head. I do a lot of this in my head. 12 minus 1, you're probably better in your head. It's just 11. Remember that parenthesis I put there? Because if you just put a 3 here, it won't work. You got to put parenthesis around it. You don't have to put the times if you put a parenthesis there. And then there's a front parenthesis here and another front parenthesis, and we only have one back parenthesis. So we have to end this parenthesis with another parenthesis. Now if you type all that in, you'll have it. Now I'm going to do it in a different order personally. I'm going to go inside the parentheses, do the 11 times 3 is 33, add 10 makes 43, and then I'm going to do 43 times 6. What is 43 times 6? 258. Who had 258 before I even said it? All right, good. Is there any part of that that you want to ask about? Like, how'd you get the 5 or whatever? I could have done it wrong. It's possible. I don't think so, though. A lot of people got the same answer as you. Okay. These are not as bad as you think they are. You just stick numbers in a formula. If I just say, here, use this formula and stick in the numbers 3 and 7. It's not that hard, right? All right, so I'm going to say that, but in a different way. I'm going to give you this formula. It's going to be geometric. And then you're going to be like, oh, I guess you should use the geometric formula. Then I'm going to say, like, I want the 5th term. Then that's one of those. All right, so I'm going to give you a geometric formula. And I want the 5th term. So here's the geometric formula. We start with 2. We double it to 4. We double it to 8. ... Would you agree that's a geometric kind? Okay. I want u sub 5. I know you could do it in your head. Don't. Use this formula. That's what I've found is the difference between the kids that get the C's and get the A's. If you can use the formulas, you can get an A. If you can only do the simple ones in your head, you might get the C. Since I wanted u sub 5, didn't I really just tell you n is 5? Yep, that's what that means. And if n is 5, that goes here. You should all know what u sub 1 is. That's super easy. The r might make you think for a second. The ratio. It's the thing you times by. I'm timesing by 2 each time. The reason it's called ratio is because it's 4 divided by 2, which gives me 2. That's what I'm timesing by each time. I'm timesing by 2. So the r is 2. The u1 was 2. And if I was typing this into a calculator, I wouldn't. I would do it in my head. And I would go 5 minus 1 in my head. That's so easy. It's just 4, right? Now, here's a really common mistake right here. 2 times 2 to the 4th. And I get it. Some kids just go 2 times 2, which is 4, and then put it to the 4th. You can't do that. Why can't you do the 2 times 2? Because powers are first. Remember the order of operations? All right. You got 32. Raise your hand if you got 32. That was the right answer. Okay, good. So these have like 3 elements. 1, figure out what the formula is. Which formula should I use? Number 2, stick the numbers in the formula with parentheses in the right spots. See, if you had put a parenthesis right there, your calculator, as you typed it, would be fine. So anything that's a variable, put parentheses around it. And then the last piece of these is just trying to figure out how to type it all in correctly and not let the calculator screw you over on these. So that's about putting the parentheses in the right spot. Okay. All right. So that's one whole type of problem called sequence and series. And I want to see if you remember this kind. Do you remember that this symbol right here means sum it all up? That's what that symbol means, sum it all up. So you're going to get 3 things and you're going to add them all up. The 4i is telling you to take and put the I numbers, which are down here, and stick them right here. So I stick I as 1, and I put a 1 right there. So 4 times 1 is 4. Cool, I'm done. No, I'm not. I got to also put in all the numbers between here and here. So between 1 and 3, well, of course, 2 is in there. So now I'm going to stick in a 2. It's 4i, but I'm sticking in a 2. And that's 8. And then it's 4i again, and I'm going to stick in the 3. And that's 12. 4, and then 8, and then 12. And those are the ones you add up. 24. That is called a sigma. All right. How about this kind? Infinity. If I told you that we started with 20, you'd put that here, and that the rate was 2, you'd put that here, then this problem wouldn't work. Our ratio has to be a fraction. Like typically R is 1/2, and that would go here. Then I just go 20 divided by 1 minus 1/2. I can do that in my head. 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. It's 0.5. And then I'd probably use the calculator. I can do this one, but 20 divided by 1/2. A lot of people mess that up. They think it gets smaller. It actually gets bigger. It's like 20 cookies, and you divide them into half cookies. Turns out to be 40. That's an example of using that formula. All right, now there's a whole bunch of other kinds of problems that look like this. They're exponentials. I want to just, don't go find this worksheet. Just talk with me for a minute. Make sure you remember exponentials. If you multiply by 1.15, is it going to make it grow or is it going to make it decay? Grow. It's going to grow by 15%. Okay, so that part there tells me that this was an exponential growth. Now, if I told you x was 3, you'd know to put it right there, wouldn't you? And then couldn't you just type this in? Yeah, that's pretty easy. I'd probably use 0.5 instead of 1 divided by 2 because the calculator will handle it better if I just do the 1 divided by 2 and get 0.5 in my head. And then I'd have the parentheses. This kind, again, if you've got the right calculator skills, these will go easy. All right. So is it growth or decay? Well, it was growth because that was bigger than 1. What's that going to be, growth or decay? If you multiply by 0.15, does that make it grow or make it shrink? Shrink, so it's decay. Why? Because that's less than 1. 1's the perfect number. If you multiply by 1, it doesn't change at all. If you multiply by bigger than 1, it grows. Smaller than 1, it'll shrink. All right. Now, if I wanted to make an equation for 10,000 people going down 2%, I would start with 10,000, and I multiply by, nope, this is the classic mistake answer. And people are like, well, you said if you want it to decline, use a small number. Not that small of a number. If I want it to go down 2%, don't times by 0.02. Always put a 1 plus something or a 1 minus something. If you do it the 1 plus or the 1 minus, you'll get these right. Because if I want it to go down by 2%, I do 1 minus 0.02. If I wanted it to go up 2%, I would put a plus right there, and it would have worked. All right. Next, you have to be careful because they're trying to trick you right here. 0.5%. People are like, oh, so you mean 50%? No. 0.5%. That's way smaller than 1%. That's 0.5%. You always put your starting number in front. I'm going to do it wrong on purpose here. 400,000 times, I want to go rise by 0.5%. 1 plus 0.5. Okay, that was close, but no. That's going up 50%. So that was close to the right answer, but you better fix it. All right. Transformations. Is that going up, down, left, or right? We only have 5 minutes left. Focus. 5 minutes, and then you can rest. You can rest your brain. Be with me. This and this are moves. One of them moves it left, right. One of them moves it up, down. Lock in. Which one's which? All right. I was asking about this one. Does that move left or right? Right. What does this move? Up. Good. If it had been minus, of course, it'd be going down. All right, that's another really critical thing for the test. For every single graph on this test, if you can make an XY chart, you can graph it. Like, that's the key. For any graphs, that's all you got to know. For most of high school, you can just make an XY chart, stick in any number you want for X, and figure out what you get. So if I want to stick in 1, it'd be 2 to the 1, which is 2. If I stick in a 2 here, X is 2, then it'd be 2 to the second, which is 4. And if I graph all of these points, graphing is so simple if you can make an XY chart. So can ya? Everybody, write down this problem and make an XY chart for me. I'm serious, there's probably 5 questions where if you can just make an XY chart, you got it. So let's practice that. Make an XY chart for this one. Almost done. You got like 2 minutes left. You can put in any number you want, but don't just like, well, I'm going to put in 1. Go, because then all of a sudden you have to do 1/2 to the 3rd power. That's really hard. So pick something easier. Like, what if I put in -2? That would be very strategic. Now all of a sudden I have 1/2 to the 0. That I can do in my head. And then the 0 power is 1. And then I take away 3. 1 minus 3, -2. -2, -2 is for sure on this graph. And here's one that most kids wouldn't have picked. I would put in -3 because I'm not scared of a -1 power. Because I know that just flips this over. -1 powers flip their base. Okay, so the -3 plus the 2 makes -1. And when I put this to the -1 power, it flips it over. It just becomes a 2. So I put in a -1, and I got 2 for this part, minus 3 makes -1. Look at that. Is 2 points enough to show me where the curve goes? No, but I can get 3 points. That's enough to show me where the curve goes. So can't we just put in a normal number? Like, can't you just put in, like, 0? Yeah, you can put in 0. Then all of a sudden this is 1/2 squared, which is 1/2 times 1/2. Your calculator could do it. I'll be your calculator. It comes out to 0.25, 1/4. I put in 0 and I got 1/4. Then you just use your calculator and take 1/4 minus 3, and it would be -2.75. There, I got 3 points. I know that would not be an easy one for you to graph, but all you got to do is find 3 points, and all of you can graph -2, -2, -1 and -1, and 0 and -2.75. That's not that hard. You could graph those points. It's getting the points that's hard. All right, I told you we'd be done. Find it. Its first problem is that one. It's called exponential functions. So today's folder, and by the way, I'm struggling for today's date. Today is June 3rd, so look for the June 3rd folder. Find this worksheet. Now there is a few too many questions on here, so we'll cut it down. But I already helped you with 1 through 4, so those should be pretty easy for you. And we even did number 5 together. And 6 and 7 are like, I did part of those too. So I don't think you'd want me to skip any of those that are going to be easy because I did them with you. And we are. So this is that sequence series stuff that we practiced already. So you have a worksheet. Go to this page. We don't have to do this many of these. On this page, sequence and series, on the second side of it, why don't you skip 2 and 4? We should do 6 because you should do 1 infinite 1. Skip 7. And I'm not saying, I mean, these are all possibly things on the test, but I want to save you some time. So at least skip 2, 4, and 7 if you want to skip some. But I would do the rest. So I think they're the most likely to be on the test. All right. So now, you got a worksheet. You got some time. You got a teacher who wants to help you. You just got to walk up there and ask. And that's all I got for you for today.